in the history of podcasts. I am joined by Doug, the founder, Shane. You can find him on Twitter at Bankster17 at Bankster DFS. We are also joined by Michael Gutadero, the Big Guta, the Big Cheese, as he's now known around my house. Number 55, Sean Good. I'll be your host, and I will try to keep these two at bay and keep them separated and play nicely for you guys. We'll answer some questions. We'll get you set up for just an outstanding Week 10. Just some amazing games that we're going to go through, and we're going to get you covered. Everything you need to know. $3.99 per week gets you. Well, the podcast is free. This is just bonus stuff. But $3.99 a week gets you everything. Gets you, I believe, 15 Fantasy Writer of the Year award winners who are nominated or soon to be nominated. I lost track of all that. You have to stay with us on that one. Gentlemen, how are you doing? How's it going this week, boys? Michael, what's up?
I'm doing great. Ready for Week 10. We had a little 2-week hiatus. Well, I had a 2-week hiatus from the stream, and so it's good to be back. And I forgot to tell you before we were off the air, Sean, that we need to make sure we plug the Week 10 free roll that I am sponsoring for all of our members and followers out there. I'll be sending the link again into the Slack chat, the NFL Slack chat room. But yeah, the winner of the competition gets $20 this week, and for extra bragging rights, if your lineup scores more than mine, you'll get a week of free membership. So I'm sure that you sign up and then you get into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just so everybody knows, DM me personally, and I will help you beat Michael this week. On top of him, and everybody gets some free weeks off Michael. So DM Dougie or me, and we will get you situated because we will know what Michael's lineup's going to be. Okay.
I mean, Mike said this is a 2-week hiatus. It was our 2 best weeks yet this year. So no, I'm just kidding. He threw down in Slack chat before we went on the air. Mike Davis, he made some Mike Davis comments, and it's like, oh, here we go.
I'm ready.
I will say, by the way, Michael, thank you for sponsoring the free roll. And you know what? I'm going to match first place. If you finish first, I'm going to match it with $20 of my own for first. So first place is now worth $40. And if you beat Mike's score. You beat Michael's score, and we're going to go with beat Michael's score because hopefully he'll score nice and high. We'll comp you a week of Bankster DFS, assuming you're a member already. We'll refund you for the week of your membership. You go ahead and give that a try. And if you're not a member, come join us at banksterdfs.com/subscribe. $3.99 a week. Sean, you said it. You get everything, but it's not just football. It's every single sport. Our Slack chat, our articles, our player pools for under $4 a week. One $5 double up a week. You hit it. You're making money. And we've been making a lot, right? The green's been insane. Just green screens, all sports, everything. And we've got, those 5 FSWA nominations on staff. And, nominations are open again. So we're going to try for a whole bunch more this year. And the award-winning. We're going to call it the award-winning articles that you get from Bankster DFS.
There you go.
All right. I've pimped the product enough. Let's talk football.
Yeah, I would hop in there with you guys in that free roll, but I live in Canada, so $20 is $110 US. So good for you guys. Well done.
Good stuff.
Anyways, on to Week 10. We start Washington in Detroit. Michael, where are you going here?
So this is gonna be a fun one, right? We're starting off with a real whopper here. There's not too much that I'm going crazy on, I would say. On Washington's side, I think it's getting clearer and clearer now that it's a pretty ugly timeshare with Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick, and McKissick is starting to he's keeping ahead on the playing time over Gibson. McKissick is getting the passing down work because Gibson couldn't block any of us, let alone chip a defensive lineman or a linebacker blitzing in on a passing down. So, Gibson's going to be viable in the games that you think is going to have a positive game script for Washington. They're going to be leading, and he's going to be getting more of the early down work. I don't know if that's going to happen on the road this week. As bad as, as up and down as Detroit has been, I should say, you're getting with no Kenny Galladay, you're getting a Detroit offense that doesn't do too great. But kind of in spite of that, there are 3 guys that I am targeting to use this week that I think are going to be very viable. The only guy in cash that I would consider from this game that I do actually like a bit is Terry McLaurin. He is 6,800, but my goodness, is this guy something? I don't know if you guys if you saw the highlights, at least from last week against the Giants, but he made a catch between 3 defenders, and he somehow got away from all 3 of them and was able to take it to the house. It was just an incredible play. The kid is so talented. It's unfortunate he has such a crappy quarterback situation, as nice as the Alex Smith story is. But he's making the most of it, and he's a little pricey at 6,800. But I think he's very viable for cash this week. He's got a very good matchup against the weak Detroit secondary, and honestly, if he continues to see double-digit targets, he's going to keep making the most of it, like he already has been, and he has. That he did last year too. And I say on the Detroit end, the 2 guys that I'm considering the most here is going to be DeAndre Swift. He's really starting to mix it up, and he's starting to get more playing time. They're really starting to feature him a bit more. Last week he had 13 rushing attempts and he caught 3 balls on 5 targets. That's very nice. He hasn't been getting in the end zone that often. But as we did see in weeks 6 and 7, he was the clear goal line back there. And they didn't have those real opportunities the past 2 weeks. But Swift is slowly taking over there. So, eventually that breakout game is really going to be coming where he's the clear-cut number 1 guy. And old man Peterson goes out to the pasture to rest. And then we got it on Detroit as well. I'm really liking TJ Hawkinson this week. He's become he's been doing very well this year. He's been, putting up 50 yards or a touchdown pretty consistently in his outputs. And this week, with basically the tight ends available, I mean, your top tight end this week on a, I guess, name or price basis, whatever you want to say, is Darren Waller. And after that, it's just there's nobody. Hawkinson, you can argue, is the best player, even the second best player on the board at tight end. So I do like him there. I wouldn't use Hawkinson in cash. He's a little volatile there, and there is a lot of downside with how Stafford is being inconsistent. But I do like Hawkinson in GPPs. I think he's going to be a nice play. People probably are not going to look up to pay for him. They're probably going to be looking at mid-range or even punting the position, which has been, kind of the thing. Waste the money, try to get, 6 to 10 points from a guy that's 3,000 or 3,500 and move on. So Hawkinson could be a nice little contrarian play there. And I think he's a strong GPP play as well. That's kind of where I'm at with this game.
Nice. Doug, what do you see here?
Nothing too different. I'm not as opposed to a Washington stack as Gouda is. I actually kind of don't mind Alex Smith at the price point. He has a little bit of upside. Yeah, I think if everything breaks right, he could hit you 20 points. The guy I'm really looking, same as Gouda, and I'm not going to get too deep into it, is Terry McLaurin. Just the one thing I want to point out with him, he's a little priced up. I still think he's worth it given the volume. It's not that different than Keenan Allen. If other than the quarterback situation, he's basically Keenan Allen. He's going to give you 10 yards. He's going to give you a real solid. And if you can't afford the $300 for Keenan Allen, and you might not be able to this week, I think it's a real safe play. I like him for cash. He's definitely in the pool, and he's leaning towards a preferred play. He's in my cash lineup now. I am curious about the running back situation. We just don't know how the game script's going to go. If Washington can keep it close, Gibson's going to be that terrible Detroit rush defense. But if Washington has to throw, McKissick's going to be a great play. I don't think either are safe for cash. I do think, depending upon the story you tell, that'll decide which one you want to put in a GPP lineup.
Yeah,
that's it. I know you used to be rambling. I know you hesitated. I know you used to be rambling. That's it. That's all I got.
No, that's awesome. All right, that's perfect. Miss McKissick is now 4th in the entire NFL among running backs with 34 catches. 4th, McKissick.
He's apparently a very good pass blocker. That's what we learned this week in tweets from Gouda. We got a tweet that he sent or that he found on Twitter that showed the difference in pass blocking grades. And if this game gets where Washington's throwing, McKissick will be in the game. McKissick will absolutely be. Gibson can't block at all.
Gibson will be on. If Washington needs to be up. Gibson is definitely going to be game script dependent for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and actually on top of that, one other stat that I did see today on McKissick, since week 4, he's number 2 in running back targets behind Alvin Kamara. So that's kind of all you need to know there, I think, with that situation.
And what is he? And he's 40. What is he? He's a 40.
49.
4,900. $700 cheaper. Whew. Yeah, I know.
He's my preferred option in this game for sure.
All right. Yeah, for sure. Moving on, we go to the Jacksonville Jaguars are heading into Green Bay to take on the Packers. Whew, yeah. What are we? Doug? We're, sort of fairly obvious, right? You would think.
It is, but it's another wind game. There's 2 games this week that we got some weather turns, and we've talked about this before. I don't care about rain. I don't care about snow. I don't care about mud, heat. I care about swirling winds. And this game is supposed to have some. Houston, Cleveland, which we'll talk about next, has way worse winds. But we saw that Green Bay, even in a wind game a couple weeks back against Minnesota, Rodgers will just lower that ADOT to Devontae Adams, and he's going to get him his targets. Adams is getting his targets. I don't care that he's $9,000. He is a cash game lock for me because no receiver is going to get the kind of volume he gets. Last week in a blowout, and this game could be a blowout. Green Bay's 14 favorite in a blowout against. I mean, look at this. It's 12, 11, 16, 10. That 3 was when he got injured. Every single week. 30 points in all but 2 games. It's ridiculous. People are like, oh, well, $9,000. How are we going to spend up for him? Mike Davis is $4,000, and Mike Davis is going to be in your cash game lineup. I know Gouda and I are going to argue about that in a little bit. But at $4,000, Mike Davis is going to be in a lot of cash game lineups. When you think about Mike Davis plus Devontae Adams at $13,000, now you're only talking $6,500 a player. Mike Davis could actually 3x on 6,500 if we look at that. And Devontae Adams for 6,500 is a freaking steal. So when you start to look at the combination of players, Adams really isn't all that expensive given the fact that we have so much value on the slate. Even if you like Duke Johnson, where I know Gouda prefers to head, you're talking 14,000 at $7,000 for Devontae Adams. That's not bad at all. And so that's a really reasonable price point given his ridiculous volume. He's in my lock of the week in cash game lineups. Aaron Jones should be fine. He gets a ton of touches. Green Bay is starting to turn into Baltimore in the fact that really easy to stack. You stack Rodgers, Jones, Devontae Adams. You might get some Valdez-Scantling getting some looks, or Lazard when he comes back, or Tunyon if Adams doesn't play, I guess. But he's playing, of course. Tunyon did well there. Tunyon's a little bang. So there's Mercedes Lewis who could be in there, but you're not playing those guys. Like, you're playing the top 3 guys, and you can fit them this week pretty easily given the value you can find on the slate. A lot of that value you can find right in this game with the wide receiver 2 for Jacksonville. We love DJ Chark. $200 is a pretty good price, but Laviska Shenault is out, which means Keelan Cole and Chris Conley are going to get on the field. They both saw about 70% of the snaps last week. Conley out targeted Cole 8-2. But that doesn't mean that's going to happen every single week. Cole has had weeks where he's had 5, 6, 7, 8 targets. Both are in play at $3,000 and $3,400 because I do feel that we're going to have a lot of throwing from Jacksonville. Jake Luton last week looked like a semi-competent NFL quarterback. He wasn't, it's not the next Aaron Rodgers, maybe. Not the next Aaron Rodgers, but he threw 8 passes, 70, 300 from scrimmage. So he's a little fearless. He's going to be playing they're not afraid to let him air it out. I really like that play. The one play I'm concerned about for this game is James Robinson. I know he's been great all year and he's getting a ton of work at the backfield, but last week with the return to the lineup of Tyler Eifert and Chris Thompson, Eifert and Thompson combined for 9 targets. So Shaughnessy had 2 targets as well. Those are the kind of off guys. That's 11 targets for those 3 guys. And not coincidentally, James Robinson only had 2 last week. That's a huge drop off from where he was. Does that mean Luton doesn't do dump offs? Does that mean Luton is more comfortable with the other players? I don't know. Does that mean the team is a little more comfortable with some of the other players? I don't know, because Eifert's been out for a while. Thompson had been injured. we don't know. And when I say words I don't know, that makes me concerned for cash games. I don't think Robinson is viable for cash this week. Even last week in a great matchup, he had 25 carries. The volume was there. He didn't have it in the passing game, like we said. He didn't really hit value. And quite honestly, he hasn't hit value all that often on a $6,600 price point. Maybe I use him in GPPs, but he's not the typical run back player that I'm going to use. I would much rather use Chark or spend down on Conley. I do like Conley a little bit more than Cole for the deep threat. And actually, a real interesting play that I like too from this game is I like Tyler Eifert. He's in my cash game lineup right now because Gouda was talking about spending down at tight end, and he's not wrong. You spend down at tight end, you get your 5 targets. You hope that they hit a couple of catches. If they fall in the end zone, like Irv Smith did twice last week, you're going to not. They're going to get 5-6 points, and you're not dead on 5-6 points on $2,700. He's had the target share when he plays 5, 7, 6, 6 in a different game, 3 in a different game for Eifert, and he's a proven commodity at $2,700 in a game that Jacksonville's going to have to throw. I like Eifert. I use him in a GPP, but cash game, so I can spend up elsewhere between Eifert and Mike Davis. If you use those two guys in your cash lineups, you can pretty much do whatever you want with the rest of your lineups. And with a lot of high-end wide receivers this week, I like that. That's all I got.
Nice. Michael, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, just quick add on this. I'm really looking forward to using DJ Chark this week. His targets have been through the roof the past 3 weeks. They're finally using him, and it looks like Jair Alexander is going to be out, which means that bad secondary is going to be even worse. I mean, the secondary really only been good or elevated because of Alexander, and with him out, it's going to be a huge advantage for Chark. So I think. I think there's a lot to be said how Lutton was looking his way this last week. So I think there's a strong chance that continues. I really like, Chark this week to use everywhere. If you're inclined to add him in cash, I think it is viable. I probably wouldn't go there because I like some other options better, but I love Chark this week. And right now, one of my biggest, involving this game, one of my biggest decisions on my cash game lineup is Aaron Jones versus Devontae Adams and which way to go. I think they both smash, and it's just a matter of which way to go on the running back versus receiver spot. So that's one thing that I would say I'm struggling with, but that's one of my bigger decisions so far this week.
Yeah, Jair Alexander, just an update on that. So he was at practice today, but when they went outdoors to do the outside portion of the practice, he walked off almost immediately with a trainer. I saw that was a thing there. So I would assume he's trending. And do they need Jair Alexander against Jacksonville? No. So why would you risk him giving the week off?
Yeah.
Right? Like the Green Bay, it's going to be ugly. They're going to pound them. And Green Bay's going to get up big, and they're going to get up big with Jones and Devontae Adams. Don't get cute. Throw it in there, right? Just lock and load and go for it, right?
But don't sleep on the Jacksonville side though, right? Just don't sleep on the Jacksonville side. 45-21 still means 3 touchdowns were scored by Jacksonville. So
yeah. Yes.
Chris Thompson is going to be on the field. He got 4. He's at what is he at 4? He's at 4. Was he at $4,000? I think I saw. Was he at $4,000? Chris Thompson, $4,000. He's had 4 targets. He's going to be on the field. If he's going to sign for targets, Robinson. Yeah, absolutely. Like I think there's you can run back in this for sure, and you can hey, no one's gonna play Jacksonville most likely, right? Or everyone's trying to play Dark, and there's a few options on their side for sure. Moving along to the AFC champion Cleveland Browns for 2020 are hosting the. I almost got through it. I almost got that out.
Bye, Sean. No, I'm just kidding.
It's been a bit slice, boys. We're out. Houston Texans and Cleveland Browns take it away. What do you see here, Michael?
So coming into today, I was really, 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 really excited about this game and all the possibilities of using these players in cash and in GPP lineups and stacks and getting weird stacks and all things like that. And then I heard the projected forecast of sustained 30 to 35 mile an hour winds the whole game. So that's concerning, but it's only concerning on the passing end. So we'll see how that plays out and what that goes. So assuming that the wind dies down and we can do what we want. So this is what I'm looking at. I mean, we'll start with the Houston side. I mean, Deshaun Watson has just been playing out of his mind lately. Everybody was worried what he may be without DeAndre Hopkins, and he's the same quarterback that he's been, since he came into the NFL. He's put up, his past, 280 last week, and then the 4 weeks before that, all over 300 yards. He's thrown multiple touchdowns in all but 2 games this year. The past 4 games he's ran for 25 yards or more. That's big, an extra 2.5 points from rushing. That's another, you're looking at an extra 100 yards passing to get that type of production, or 50 yards passing, I should say. Watson has been excellent. He's going to be extremely viable this week. And on the running back end, Duke Johnson's my favorite value this week at running back, a little bit better than I think Mike Davis too. It's a great matchup against a Cleveland defense that's been gashed a bit by the run this year. They're giving up points there. When David Johnson got that concussion last week, Duke Johnson was the man. He wasn't sharing much of anything. He had 16 carries and 4 targets and caught all 4 of those balls. And I think there's a very easy road for Duke here to get 3 to 4x just on his volume. Forget if he gets in the end zone again like he did last week, which they weren't afraid to use him in short yardage for in the red zone also. So I'm really liking Duke this week. I think we've seen the whole year that Houston has been dead set on using David Johnson and giving him a workhorse role. I don't think that's going to change because Duke is in there. And frankly, I think Duke is just better at this point in his career than where David Johnson is, to be quite honest, and seeing them both on the field. So I think this is a great position to take advantage of. And I can't say enough, about Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks in this matchup too. Again, Cleveland's secondary has been performing to some of the potential that they have with the talent there. Will Fuller, except for that dud against Baltimore week 2, I mean, the guy's got double-digit points in every game. I mean, there's only been one game where he failed to crack 15 points. So again, you're looking at a guy that is very solid there. He's for cash, he may be a tad bit pricey depending on how your lineup looks, but he's got a very safe floor. So I do believe he is cash viable for that reason alone. So I think he's in a very strong matchup, him and Brandon Cooks there. And then on the Cleveland side, Cleveland's a little more interesting for me here. I love the matchup for Chubb and Hunt. I think a lot of people are going to be off of Kareem Hunt this week because Chubb is back, and 2, when Hunt was the lead back with Chubb out, Hunt disappointed a little bit. And it seems obvious that Hunt has been performing better with Chubb in the lineup in the way that they've been using these running backs. So I think this week that both of these guys are going to be high-end plays, and I think they're going to be lower owned. I really do, because each of them being active is going to kind of draw people away, and anticipating less workloads and all that. One way that I'm looking to stack this game to get a little funky, if the passing games look to be viable enough, if the wind can die down a bit, I'd look at Deshaun Watson with Will Fuller, and either, it's weird to say, but either with Duke Johnson or Brandon Cooks there. And if you're bringing it back, I bring it back with one, if not both, of the running backs on Cleveland. I don't know how this passing game is going to play out. Since Odell Beckham has been down, Mayfield has been much more comfortable, which I'm not surprised to see, but he's spread it around a lot. And, they've been using the tight ends a lot more. You get an Austin Hooper back this week, so there's 2 to 3 tight ends there that they're going to end up using. And wide receiver, Landry's probably going to be the target hog, But what type of production is he really going to have to give an explosive end on GPPs? So I think you can get a little funky and stack both of the Cleveland running backs here, or even if you want to use Mayfield, if you think that Cleveland can pass it and Mayfield can put up some numbers, a potential Mayfield Chubb Hunt stack with Fuller or Cooks coming back. It's not the craziest thing in the world. We've seen past weeks where using the running backs to be contrarian in a high total game has really worked out. I think this is one of those games where using the running backs in a stack, even as a bring back or with their own quarterback, actually can work pretty well for you this week.
Okay. For some reason, Sean's muted up. Can you guys hear me now? I tried
to
I
hear you.
I'm here.
There you are. There you are, Sean. Oh, sorry. What were you saying there, Browns fan?
I'm good. I am good. I was just saying.
The chat wants to know, Sean. Sean, the chat wants to know what you're drinking, by the way.
It's a pint, boys. It's a pint. It's a very.
I think they want to know the brand.
So this would be a independent brewer up here, Amsterdam Brewery, and it's a blonde. It's Friday night.
Nice. Free plug.
Got to have a blonde.
Free plug.
Amsterdam Brewery, absolutely. Yeah, I was just checking the weather for Cleveland on Sunday, and it looks worse than what the Raiders were. The wind is looking nasty. Gusts in the high 40s, sustained in the high 20s, low 30s. So a couple days out. I mean, that could change, but
it's sad because I like this game too, and the stack that Gouda just talked about with the passing game for Houston and both running backs for Cleveland is exactly the stack I wrote up and moving the chains this week, because I think it's a little off the board play, and because it feeds into what both teams want to do. It's almost a moot point at this point, simply because the wins are going to make this not happen. But the Cleveland Browns have scored 30 points or more 5 times this year. Baker Mayfield has scored 18 fantasy points, more than 18 fantasy points once all year. Doesn't matter what has happened, even in games he's had 2 touchdowns in, more than 18 points once. They want to run the ball. Chubb and Hunt are a great combination, and when they play together, a much better player. In the chat box, Crod had asked us about Landry. Not interested. I'm really not interested in the Cleveland passing game at all. I'm interested in the Cleveland running game. So I'm not interested in Landry, especially at almost a 6K price in Cooks. There's a lot of the receivers I'd rather take at that price point. I do Cooper would be in play, but the wind is there. So, we're kind of effed. So let's just, if there's heavy wind, I'm fading this game, because we saw what happened the last time there was wind with the Raiders game, and it sucked. Like that, we could just pull this game off the slate and just, play a 10 games. That's how I'm looking at it.
That game, Josh Jacobs ran it 31 times. 31 times he ran it against that game a couple weeks ago. Just to keep that in mind.
Dookie ain't running it 31 times. Dookie ain't running it 31 times. Guy had 105. His top rushing season had 105 carries. I think from the Cleveland, I think you're heading towards the running backs there. The running backs for against the team that can't stop it. So I guess we're not completely pulling it off the slate. I would say as a game stack, we're pulling this off the slate. In that case, you look just at the Cleveland running game against that defense. I would not be looking at Houston much at all, even though it's a Duke Johnson revenge game. I prefer Mike Davis. We'll talk about that when we get to the Carolina game, especially for cash. Maybe in a GPP, I prefer Duke. But in a cash game, for me, it's Davis 100 times out of 100 this week. We'll get into that later.
Yeah,
I fight about it.
I think that's all we need to stop the Cleveland champions. Anyways, moving along. Philadelphia is heading to take on the G-Men in Michael's backyard there in New York. What do we have what are we seeing here, Dougie?
This could be a sneaky game. I didn't write it up, but I think I'm going to have to go back and add. Oh, no, I did write it up a little bit. I wrote up a sneaky GPP mini stat, 2 wide receivers from this game. I didn't specify which 2 because I'm not sure which wide receivers are going to play right now. Sterling Shepard looks to be healthy. He was injured when I wrote up this morning. He's now looks to be off the injury report. He seems to be the guy getting the targets for the Giants right now. Slayton last week had 1 catch. I don't know what's going on there. I consider Evan Ingram a receiver, even though he's a tight end. He plays a lot in the slot, and he's been getting a ton of targets lately, 10 targets each of the 2 weeks, I believe. be 9 targets the week before. He's been a target hog, and at $4,500 against the defense giving up the fantasy points to tight ends, and the Giants have finally figured out how to use Evan Ingram. Potential for a mini ceiling game. Let's say 18 points is a reasonable high expectation for him. Not a floor. A floor is with Evan Ingram could be 5 points, but a high expectation, 18 points is definitely within play. I like him a lot at 4,500. He might even make a sneaky flex play this week. The thing that's interesting for me at this game, well, first of all, I love Miles Sanders in cash. The Giants are terrible against the run game. Miles Sanders should come back and get a lot of the carries. Boston Scott didn't do anything to earn a ton of work. And so I think what we're going to see is Sanders picking up his normal 15 to 20 touchdowns. 20-point range. I've got him in my cash game line right now simply because he gets enough work in the passing game. And I think running back's a tire fire this week for cash. And so he's right in that mid-range, allows me to spend up at wide receiver. But for GPP purposes, which seems to be where we go with this live stream a little bit more as GPP end. The Eagles might be interesting. Carson Wentz, okay? Like Carson Wentz has struggled this year, but why has he struggled? Because he's had no weapons. I get that he's not as good as people would like him to be. He makes some poor decisions, takes a few too many sacks, definitely throws way too many picks. But he's throwing 2 touchdowns a game, and he's it with garbage. I mean, garbage at wide receiver. Travis Fulgham has somewhat emerged and has become a viable NFL wide receiver and is probably going to be a decent wide receiver play, a top 40 kind of a guy for maybe the next couple of years. But he doesn't have Zach Ertz, didn't have Miles Sanders most of the year. He didn't have Deshaun Jackson. He didn't have Allen Jeffrey. He didn't have Jalen Reagor. Like, that's a lot of talent that Carson Wentz has been missing. He's been playing with Travis Fulgham and Greg Ward and Johnny Hightower and I don't like my dad. Like I don't know who's been playing wide receiver for those, but this week Fulgham is there and he's emerged. But you also got Reagor is healthy and playing, and Jeffrey looks like he might play this now. And while Jeffrey's probably lost a step or two, he's still an upgrade over what they've been running out there. And so now that we've got Carson Wentz against a pretty bad Giants secondary, I get that Bradbury's been really, really good. And he may slow it. If he's especially shouting Fulgham, he could stop Fulgham, or he might stop one of the receivers. He ain't covering all of them at the same time, so someone's going to get open. And the rest of the Giants' defense secondary has been really bad this year. And Wentz is at $5,900. I think this is an opportunity. The more I talk it up, the more I'm like, oh, I got to make another lineup now. But this is a really strong opportunity to game stack that no one's going to be playing, because people are going to be playing Green Bay. If the weather's okay, Houston, Cleveland, but that's probably not going to happen. Buffalo, Arizona, Rams, Seahawks. That's where all the ownership is going to go, and that's fine. But as we talked about in the GPP video a couple of weeks ago, when everyone's doing something, do the other thing. Or if you're finding a game that could beat the total that is projected, the over-under that's projected, and no one's playing it, like I felt about the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game a few weeks ago, and I was wrong because Baltimore played horrible that game. But I feel this is the kind of game that is being overlooked, and both offenses could play pretty decently, and both defenses are really bad. I think this is a game that can be very sneaky this week. And if you're playing the early-only slate with just the 5 games, I would pivot off of Green Bay and Houston, Cleveland real fast for this game. I would go real heavy on this game and go way above the field on this game. And I would do, if I'm doing like 20 max, let's say I'm doing 20 early-only lineups, I'd take 50% of that on this game. I would just load up here and do all sorts of different combinations and really try to leverage the field on this game. That's where my head is at for this. I just think this is a really underrated game this week. And again, we don't know which wide receivers are going to be there. Is it going to be Austin Mack for the Giants? I don't know. Like I said, I like Shepard and Ingram. I don't know who else is going to be there. Tate don't look like he's going to play, though. And nor should he. He's a head case right now. But there's just so many opportunities, and they're all so cheap if you get past them. It's expensive, $5,000. There's so many opportunities with this game. I'll stop saying so many opportunities. I think Sean muted himself again.
We keep losing him. Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick on this one.
Opportunities for Michael.
Well, missed that.
What do you got, Michael? What do you got?
So yeah, just real quickly on this. I mean, I'm pretty much in consensus here with you, Doug. Darius Slayton going up against Darius Slay. That's going to pretty much take Slayton out of the game. I think he went 2 for 23 in their first matchup. So you can I wouldn't even put him in your player pool, even how shallow the Giants' passing game is. And I'm gonna have quite a bit of exposure this week to Dallas Goedert. Let's not forget Wentz loves throwing it to the tight end. They're still without Zach Ertz. Goddard, his first game back was was the Dallas game 2 weeks ago. And yeah, he only had one target, but that game was such a mess with DiNucci playing, and they didn't need to throw. Wentz only threw for 120 yards in that one. That Philly just had it easily in control. But when Goddard was healthy, weeks 1 and 2, he had 9 targets and 8 targets. And we all remember the second half that he had last year with all the injuries there. I think Wentz is going to lean on Goddard a ton, and especially too because the receivers are getting healthy, but. Really, it's only right now only Fulgham and Rieger there. I don't think Jeffrey has a blessed thing left in him. So really, even though they're getting healthy, they're still a little short on the passing game. So I think Goddard's got to be on your radar, and you have some big exposure to him this week. I'm really loving him, and again, tight end, it's dart throw after dart throw. So when you can get at least something to fall back on, like Goddard is, that has a track record, as short as it may be as being a rookie last year, he's a great option there. Don't overlook him.
Yeah, no, I'm with Doug on this one. The full game, the full slate, the early slate. I'm going to have this game stacked all kinds of different ways. And I'm loving Sterling Shepard. Absolutely love Sterling Shepard this week. One thing I think I've been sort of noticing is Daniel Jones has basically been hit so many goddamn times that he wants to get the ball out as quick as he can so he won't get hit. So he's not letting Slayton do his route. He's not giving if you notice, there was 2 weeks ago, I think it was, Slayton had burned a couple guys. It was 2 weeks ago, and he was open by 20 yards, but Jones wasn't even looking his way because he doesn't have time to go through his progressions. So his first or second progression, Ingram, Shepard, ball's gone. And with Golden Tate not playing this week, I don't think he's playing at all this week. He might not play again for the Giants, actually. Joe Judge is an old school guy. He ain't putting up with that shit. He don't need to. I mean, Golden Tate's whatever. It's Golden Tate. Bye-bye. Sterling Shepard out of the slot, I think is in for a huge, huge day this week. And I think Ingram might be as well. And I love those guys as run backs with, Sanders, Wentz, Goddard kind of scenario. And especially, like you said, in the early slate, like Doug was talking about, Houston, Cleveland, gone. Whether, throw Devontae, you can throw Devontae Adams in there in your stack here with the prices of these guys, right? Slate, 100, Shepard's $5,000. Like, look at the targets he's receiving, and it's nuts. He's got I can't say enough about this game. Love Sterling Shepard, and you will be seeing Sterling Shepard in the dirty slot this week. That's why I'm a little excited because get a little plug to the dirty slot there. Absolutely. Sterling Shepard will be in my full day slate, the early slate, the Sunday to Monday slate, showdown slate. Sterling Shepard is going to be on every slate I can get my hands on. Just saying. Anyways, but that's there you go. That's enough on that game. We're moving along now. What do we got? Tampa Bay, Carolina. Dougie, what you got here?
I'm not in love with this game. There are some pieces in this game that I like, and this is the guy right here. This is the guy. This is the guy in your cash games this week. There's no reason to play Mike Davis this week. Mike Davis is going to get you. What's that?
Unless you're Michael.
Well, yeah, unless you're Gouda. I muted Gouda. Hold on. What's that, Gouda?
I said we'll get there. I'll let you finish.
No, I mean, listen, the thing is, Mike Davis could have a bad game. Mike Davis could have a bad game. What's a bad game for Mike Davis? I mean, we've seen the bad games, right? It's right.
Yes.
Right here. He's 9.4 grand. He's not killing cash game when it unlocks Devontae McLaurin, one of the Rams receivers, a couple of high-end running backs like me. He unlocks way too much, and he's going to be like 70% in cash or 50%, some ridiculous number in cash. If he goes off, you're screwed if you don't have him. But if he doesn't go off, no, he doesn't go off for anyone. It's what can we do with the rest of our lineup? And I think we can do a build because every week we find a couple of cash game plays that aren't as widely owned as everyone else. And we just look at ourselves, everyone like, why were you not playing these guys? And I think that Mike Davis is the kind of guy who's going to just open that up. And so even if Mike Davis does like an average, semi-average Mike Davis game, 5 catches, 40 yards, 50 yards rushing, I mean, right there, that's 10 points. Even if he goes for 20 yards on those 5 catches, there's your 12 points. Like Mike Davis is going to get catches. And the Buccaneers are really good against running backs, but they also give up 6.5 passing receptions per game to the running back position. And so maybe Mike Davis is going to get 6.5, although we've seen Carolina loves to dump off to the running backs. Again, if he gets 4 for 20, that's 6 points. He gets 30 yards rushing, 9 points. That's almost value. He falls into the end zone, he's 15 points. I mean, there's a lot of ways that he can get to the numbers he needs to get to, especially if they're going to continue to dump the ball off to him. I just don't see Duke Johnson, if we're going to argue some point, I don't see Duke Johnson getting that kind of volume. The weather is going to be an issue, of course, there as well, but it's just Duke Johnson's just not carrying that kind of a load where Mike Davis has proven throughout the course of the year that he handle 18, 20, 22 touches. Duke Johnson has, and for $1,000 less, I'll take a guy who is sitting at $7K. I mean, look at his prices: 67, 66, 66, 7, 64. I mean, he's been that 6,500, which is what I talk about thinking of Mike Davis with Devontae Adams. We're talking about an average $500 a player. Well, he's been that player before, and he's hit value on that number enough this year. I'm okay with it, and that's what I like. Now, where's some of the concern for me? Where is some of the concern going to come for Mike Davis getting work? It's going to come in this guy right here, Curtis Samuel. We love Curtis Samuel at Bank DFS because he kind of does a little bit of everything, and you feel like we were kind of on this. Curtis Samuel's going to run the ball a little bit. Slot dude. I mean, look, Curtis Samuel's had 3 or more rushes in 3 of the last 4, 5 of the last 7 games. I mean, the football. He's also targets now. He's getting targets in 4 straight games. He's under 5. He's going to get you 10 to 12 touches, including rushing attempts. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns in the last. He might be getting some of the work that Mike Davis had gotten prior. Remember those 2 weeks that Mike Davis had the under 10 points, the floor games? Well, Curtis Samuel picked up that slack, and he had kind of ceiling game Curtis Samuel. That's what worries me a little, but again, at 4K, it's not going to pull me off Mike Davis, but it's going to open my eyes up to Curtis Samuel a little bit in GPPs. Who am I going to run him back with? Leonard Fournette. I don't really care for the passing games at all in this game, but I do think Leonard Fournette's a guy that we need to start taking a look at. He's getting the running back carries for the snaps. Forget the carry last week, but that game was a blowout. But he's getting the snaps. He's getting a ton of snaps. He is clearly the favorite running back for Tampa Bay. I like Leonard Fournette. I like what he can do in the passing game. He showed it last year that he can be a high-volume pass catcher. And over the last 3 weeks, he's got 19 targets, including the blowout last week. If he had a normal value on a $5,500 price tag, cash game viable? No, I don't think so. But if he's going to get you 10 to 12 rushes and 5 to 7 targets, that's some volume right there. If he gets into the end zone once, he could push for 20 points. That's a guy that I think running back, if you don't want to use Mike Davis in a tournament, and I am not putting Mike Davis in a single GPP lineup. Mike Davis will be in 0% of my GPP lineups because I think he's going to be way overpriced or way overvalued ownership percentage-wise in tournaments. I don't care about ownership in cash games. I do care about ownership in tournaments, and I'm not going to play the field on Mike Davis because the upside necessarily might not be there anymore with what Curtis Samuel's doing. How do we leverage the field? How do we pivot off of that? We use Curtis Samuel and run it back with Leonard Fournette. I'm not really in on Brady. I'm not in on the Carolina passing game. I don't know what's going on with the Tampa Bay passing game right now. Antonio Brown came in and it feels like he threw everything off. I don't know what to do. And if I don't know, I'm not going to spend time worrying about it when there are other viable options on the slate. I just don't feel like we need pieces to this passing game because I just don't think it's going to be a high passing total game. I think we're going to get a lot of action on the ground. And I don't consider Curtis Samuel part of the passing game altogether. I think he's not a running back. I mean, he's obviously going to get targets, but he's going to get running back-like workload in terms of pass targets, like a J.D. McKissick kind of a role. I'm okay with that. And a couple of rushes, but that's it. I'm not really high on this game otherwise. It's a lot of talking for a game I'm not that high on, but
that's okay, Doug. It's okay. We understand. Michael, what do you got, brother?
So the devil's advocate side on Mike Davis. So if we let's break down his 6 games as starter into 2 different halves. So the first 3 games that he was a starter, where he put up 22 or more points in all 3 of the games. The 3 defenses that he faced were the Chargers, the Cardinals, and the Falcons. I think we could all agree those 3 defenses are less than mediocre, to say the least. And then the last 3 games as a starter, he faced the Chicago Bears, the New Orleans Saints, and then the Atlanta Falcons again. Now, the Falcons game, he did run for 5.1 YPA, but he did not get into the end zone. He only had 2 targets. And that was a theme in 2 of those 3 games. He had 2 targets and 3 targets, and then 5 targets against New Orleans, where he only had 7 carries, though. So that's some of the concern for Davis is just the way the volume started to shift and what he actually did with it and against the teams that they played. And now we take into account the Tampa Bay defense, who, in spite of getting torched last week, they do have one of the top run defenses in the NFL. So that's concerning for Davis there also. And the other thing that I worry about with Davis potentially here is the game script. I actually looked into this today. Over the past 10 years, Tom Brady has lost by double digits 11 times, and after all those 11 games, he's 10-1 in his next game. Personally, I have the Bucs winning this game. I think the Bucs win this game. And after getting just abused and demolished on national TV like that, Tom Brady, I think, comes out with one of his classic FU games where he just rams it down the Panthers' throats. And that could be bad for Davis. Now, listen, Davis could end up with 10 targets if it's a negative game script all day, and his $4,000 price tag pays off easily. I'm not saying don't consider him in cash games. I just think that I personally think Duke is a better play than Davis, but I see the route and I see the point of it. And hell, at the end of the day, depending on what it does for my lineup, I may end up having Davis in there because he's 4,000 and I don't need that much. I just don't think it's a great play, and to maybe temper some of the expectations or even potentially go Duke over Davis like I currently have. Other than that, I've got nothing on this game. Like I said, I think Brady has his big FU game. He kind of comes back with a vengeance. I don't see any routes of stacking it. I don't think there's anything to stack. Stuff's going to be way too spread out. If anything, if you want to play the Brady FU narrative and he's got to prove that Brown should be there, yeah, maybe you do a stack of Tom Brady and Antonio Brown just on that off chance that Brady forces 15 targets to Brown and he goes for 10, 100 yards and a touchdown or 2. Yeah, you're set up pretty with those 2 guys that are relatively cheap compared to other guys at those positions.
If I could just retort, I don't agree. I do agree that Mike Davis is not a great play. I do agree with that. Someone had asked in chat earlier today, I think it was Sam who asked earlier today, who are you higher on, or who do you think is the greater play? Duke Johnson or Mike Davis. I don't remember the wording. I'm like, that's some strong words right there. And I'm playing Mike Davis. So I agree. I don't think it's a particularly high upside play, which is why it's not a tournament play for me. And I don't think it's a great play. What I do think for me is it's a necessary play, because I do think the volume will be there to help me unlock Devontae Adams. And you alluded to that. You said, hey, at the end of the day, I might need to do the same thing. So I think we're not as far off as it may have seemed at the beginning, because no, I don't think, let Mike Davis slam dunk 30 points. No, Mike Davis, if he gets me 12 points, I am super happy this week. I know I accept that the upside is there for an 18 type game, but if he can get me 10 to 12 points, then I'm like, all right. And then Devontae can get me 30. That makes up the extra 3 points that I needed for Mike Davis. So we got our 3X on both guys. And I just think what he can do for the rest of your lineup is what's important. So, I don't think he's a great play. I think he's a necessary play, at least in the build that I'm going for. And so I think we're a lot closer on this than it would appear at first glance.
Yeah, so my slant on this is so Kansas City's pass defense is strong outside and they're weak over the middle. Pretty much similar to what Tampa Bay's pass defense is. They're strong outside and they're weak over the middle. So last week, Samuel was targeted 9 times, and with McCaffrey back, he still rushed the ball 3 times. So he still had 3 carries even with McCaffrey back. Now McCaffrey's back out. I liked Samuel last week, and I didn't pull the trigger. But last week, I think this shapes up to be another situation just like last week for Samuel. And with McCaffrey out, I think he might get 5 or 6 carries now, right? The jet sweeps at the goal line and everything else like that, right? I love Samuel this week. And I'm agreeing with Doug again. I love the Fournette Samuel combo, actually. And I don't see much more in this game. Mike Davis, 70% cash, 80% cash, right? So, I mean, play it. It's a free square. Move on. I get it. But in terms of I love the Fournette and Samuel double stack there. Game stacks, no, not interested in anybody. Anderson and I think DJ Moore are going to have trouble on the outside against Dean and Jamal Dean and the other guy escapes me my name now. But I think Samuel and Fournette are definitely a very good stack GPP wise. Moving along, Denver. Now we're getting into the good stuff. Denver is heading over to play the Raiders down in Dougie's home, in Dougie's backyard there. So Dougie, we'll let you kick this one off here. What are you seeing here?
Not as much as you think. I'm probably going to cede this to pretty quickly. I will talk about one player. I'm going to talk about one player and then let Guda talk about the rest of this game from maybe a GPP perspective, because maybe he has a little more love for it than I do. I want to talk about Josh Jacobs, and I want to talk about my level of concern with Josh Jacobs. Right now, Josh Jacobs is in my cash game lineup. I don't feel good about it. I don't like running back this week for cash to high end. I don't love Kamara. I don't love James Conner. I don't want Aaron Jones in the same lineup as Devontae Adams, and I definitely favor Adams over Jones. So that leaves me in the Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs range for my pay up at running back. And Jacobs scares me in cash. I wrote this up in the article this week that Josh Jacobs to me is like a poor man's Derrick Henry. He gets some volume. He needs a touchdown to pay off, and he doesn't catch any passes. And I try to avoid that in cash. But how do you beat the Denver Broncos? You beat them by running the ball. It shows that the opponent rank is third, like they're the third stingiest defense for fantasy points for running backs. The statistics tell a different story. So maybe we aren't scoring touchdowns against Denver, but Denver has given up 90 last week on the ground to Atlanta, which is not the world's best running team. 210 yards on the ground against the Chargers, 101 yards against Kansas City, 117 yards on the ground against New England. Those are not the world's best rushing teams. 129 rush yards to the Jets. I get 50 of that was on the Sam Darnold scramble for a touchdown, but they let Sam Darnold scramble for a 50-yard freaking touchdown. 109 yards to Pittsburgh, 130 yards to Tennessee. Fair Henry. Well, this is Derrick Henry light in a way. Like, I get that we start to look at these opponent fantasy points allowed, but we got to dig deeper sometimes to go, well, maybe that's because of touchdowns or lack of pass catching. Because, again, if you pull up those teams, let up for another quick second, and I promise I won't spend too long belaboring this point, but I haven't dug into it here. Todd Gurley, not the best pass-catching running back. Chargers, they do throw to the running backs a little bit. Kansas City doesn't use the running backs at all, really. New England throws a little bit to the running backs, though they haven't as much this year. I think that was a Damian Harris game. They didn't really throw to him. The Jets don't really throw to running backs. Pittsburgh does a little bit. Tennessee doesn't. So perhaps some of that fantasy points allowed to running backs, the lack of it has to do with the fact that they're playing teams who don't throw to running backs. Well, neither do the Raiders. So brings me back to the point. They give up a ton of yards to running backs on the ground, and the Raiders, we know, want the football. Last week in a game that Derek Carr should have thrown 35 passes, they threw 23, 25 in a game that was close. I mean, there was no reason for him not to throw the football. They just kept running and running and running. I would love to see 31 carries, 23 carries, but I'm concerned about that 14 carries and 10 carries and the if we can get back to some of this usage in the passing game, 3 targets a game, I feel a little bit happier. But this back-to-back weeks with only 1 target concerns me. Laundry. I know I'm here to answer questions and to help people, but this was my big decision point for the week. I have a section in the article called Decision Points, and one of the decision points was, using Josh Jacobs in cash. It was Josh Jacobs and Tua versus Deshaun Watson and Duke Johnson. I've kind of moved off the Duke Johnson end of it, but we still have that concern of like, do I want to use Jacobs? I think the matchup is there. I think this is the right way to go with this, but We're going to talk more. I think we'll talk more Sunday, or if I do another cash game video tomorrow, I'll ramble a little bit longer about this then. But this is the one guy this game that I'm really looking at. I'm also looking at the Denver Broncos defense, but we're not going to spend too much time talking about defense. I like their ability to get at the quarterback, but Derek Carr does make a ton of mistakes. Fumbles a lot, though. But anyway, another story for another day. We'll ramble more about that another time because I don't belabor the point on defense. I'm not playing this game much in GPP, though. So that's the only real area that I'm looking at is the Josh Jacobs point. Gouda, do you have a different viewpoint on this game, maybe? Because the Vegas total is pretty high on this.
No, I'm actually surprised that this game is a higher total. I just don't see where the points are going to come from. If the Raiders can play their game and keep Denver's offense off the field, the Raiders are going to run the ball 60% of the time. If that's happening, there's not much that's going to happen on the other end. I mean, Drew Lock loves to sling it. We've seen that. The guy is wildly inaccurate, but this passing game has become quite entertaining. And I wish we could see more, Denver Atlanta games or Denver playing high scoring offenses versus instead of playing the Raiders. But I wouldn't use Lock in a GPP this week. Maybe one lineup, maybe. I just don't think he's going to have the volume for it just because of how the Raiders defense plays. The only guy in here that I am going to use, and again, not heavily, but I will have him as one off because he's got a nice price, is Jerry Jeudy. He's got double-digit targets the past 2 weeks. The first 3 weeks of the year with Locke in there, he had 7, 8, and 9 targets. I mean, it's obvious that him and Locke are really building a strong chemistry. The only thing here that makes Jeudy really a GPP play and you don't sniff him for cash is the catch rates. And that's a big part of Locke's issues. Jeudy had 10 targets 2 weeks ago, but he only had 4 catches. Last week he had 14 targets, but only had 7 catches. But the kid is special. I mean, I was watching somebody had tweeted out game film of Jerry Jeudy running routes the past couple of weeks, and the guy is making cornerbacks just look absolutely silly. If he had one of the top quarterbacks in the league, or if these were the Peyton Manning days, I mean, we'd be talking about Jeudy on the level of probably Devontae Adams. I think he's that good already. He just doesn't have the quarterback for it to really show, but eventually it's going to come through. And the Raiders secondary is not very good, so Jeudy could take advantage of it if he's getting double-digit targets again. But he could get 10 targets and only get 3 catches for 50 yards. So there's as much downside as there is upside here. So I think he's a great GBP play. Have him in your pool, use him. But other than that, I'm not getting too excited or using much else in this game this week.
Yeah, there we go. I got nothing on this game, actually. I'm probably going to avoid most of it. I don't feel on the late slate, especially with the way the schedule sets up this week. This is probably going to be the ugliest game on the late slate.
I just don't understand how this game, and Gouda alluded to it, I don't understand how this game has a 50-point total. I think both teams are going to play slower paced. I know that there's a lot of volume for Locke, but I'm with you, Gouda. Where are the points coming from? And that's why I want to use Jacobs, though, because I think the Raiders are just going to want to pound the ball and get out of this game and slow that pace down. But it's 50 points. GPP, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, we're actually on the same side on an under. Go figure. We're on the same side on an under. You know what that means? This game's going to be 47, 45 or something like that.
Carl had the game that we wanted last week.
There we go. Mental note, stack this game up now. Yeah, there we go. Moving along. Arizona. I think we like this game a little more, boys. Michael, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, this one's going to be a fantasy bonanza, right? I mean, it should be. I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit here. There was a couple of weeks before the Cardinals offense really took off these past couple of weeks. I was talking about Christian Kirk. He was in my waiver wire write-ups and pods that we did. And he was the guy that I said, listen, if the Cardinals offense is ever going to take off, it's going to be passing it down the field, stop this dink and dunk crap with Hopkins that they've been doing and really open it up. And Kirk is the guy to do that. And the past 3 weeks, look at what they've done. And guess who started to explode? Christian Kirk. There's no coincidence there. And they're facing a Buffalo team that another great offense. Josh Allen has taken a big leap forward in his third season, much like Kyler Murray has taken a big leap forward in his second season. This could be an exciting game with two quarterbacks really that can do it all at slinging and aren't afraid to run. And I think everybody is viable here. It's unfortunate that the Cardinals running backs have just been so crappy this year. This is such a great spot for them. Drake is trending towards playing, which means we'll probably get that same split backfield we were getting earlier in the year. Drake's getting the running work, Edmonds getting the passing work. In a game that I anticipate shooting out, I would say if you wanted to use a back, lean towards the one that's going to be catches. But I can't do that with Edmonds at 6,300. There's just no way. Maybe Drake at 4,900 if you wanted to get real cute, but I wouldn't even go there either, especially coming off of an injury and everything. Who knows how much he even might play if he's active. So I'd kind of stay away from the running backs on both ends in this game. I mean, it's going to be pretty cut and dry. It's either Murray or Allen. And then, you're getting exposure to Hopkins, Diggs, and Kirk, and maybe you sprinkle in a little John Brown or Cole Beasley there if you have a strong opinion on one of the Buffalo secondary receivers. This is one of those games where you just don't get cute on it. You take the good plays, you suck up the ownership, and you get contrarian elsewhere. Sometimes you're going to have those games where they're chalky, but you got to have exposure to them, and you just got to use the chalk. You eat it, and you get contrarian elsewhere. And this is just one of those games. There's no contrarian avenues, but I mean, all these guys are going to be so viable. This is going to be the fastest paced game of the week, and I anticipate this game probably being in the 60s, maybe even touching the 70s if things get really crazy here. But yeah, I mean, probably top 5 quarterbacks this week. Murray and Allen are both top 5 scoring. I wouldn't be surprised to see Steph Diggs as a top 5 receiver this week. And Hopkins has a little bit of a tougher matchup with Tre'Davious White out there, but you know what? If Hopkins is getting his volume, let's kind of throw last week out as just an anomaly, just one of those things. Hopkins is going to be fine, even at his price range. And if you have one of these quarterbacks, put Hopkins, Diggs, and you find your value and your you can train plays elsewhere.
John Brown revenge game. Sorry. Pardon me.
There you go.
Doug, over to you.
I'm taking a different route in this game than Gouda. And Sean, you alluded to it just there. I'm not going to completely fade Diggs and Hopkins. They're in the player pool for sure. But I'm going back to where Gouda started. I love Christian Kirk in this game. I love John Brown in this game. And if you run a Kyler Murray, John Brown, Christian Kirk lineup, you can do a lot of filthy things with the rest of the secondary stack. And I plan on doing that. I was trying to look it up. I think I might have GPP. I'm going to pull it up real quick. I know which is what do you say, the most professional podcast right now. That's okay though. I'm pulling it up because I can't remember what I did with this lineup, but I remember I loved it. Yeah, I've got a. Oh my goodness, stop it. Yeah, I've got a game with Brown, Kirk, and Kyler Murray, and I've run it back with my secondary stack is a Packers double stack with a Jaguars run back. That's kind of filthy what we can do. We're getting exposure to some of the highest scoring games on the slate. I don't know if Gouda hates it or loves it by that look, but I think he's thinking about it.
I do. See, it's interesting because my thought process on this game was with Kirk and Brown. I just didn't look at them as being contrarian plays. I look at them as not as high owned as Diggs and Hopkins, but I think their ownership is going to be there because they're cheap pieces in a potentially high scoring game. But using those two is the contrarian version in this game. I just think comparatively to the other games, they'll still be like kind of higher owned. That's more what I meant. For sure. And you could run all that with if you don't want to do a Green Bay stack, you can run it with that old Los Angeles stack. Like, do a lot of nasty things if you go Kirk and Brown instead of the higher end guys. And really, when you think about it, talking about Kirk, we'll go back to Kirk for a second. If Murray's going downfield, it's to Kirk, not to Hopkins, right? Hopkins is the lower A guy. He's going to get the volume, but boy, I mean, Kirk has had a bomb 2 of the last 3 weeks. The touchdowns are there. The point there, I love it. I've been since Gouda brought it up. I've used Kirk 3 straight weeks, and I felt really, really good about it. He was one of my one-off plays in GPPs last week, and that worked out really nicely. And I think John Brown could be a similar week. One thing you'll notice about Josh Allen,
Josh Allen's had like 4 good games this year and 4 bad games. The 3 of the 4 games he's been really, really good in was weeks 1, weeks 2, and week 2 and week 9. The common theme you're going to find for 1, 2, and 9 is that those are the 3 games that John Brown had the most targets in. I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that the games that he's spreading the ball around a little bit more and John Brown is healthy and off the field for Steph Diggs a little bit and letting Josh Allen get some room to run around. I don't think it's a coincidence that he's had those good games. The same had those good games. And Brown hasn't really gone off in those games, but we do know Brown's a deep threat kind of a guy. He's been 1 away from 3 100-yard games. And, one kind of a 20-yard-ish type of 30-yard catch from putting up kind of 23, 24-point games, which is a real nice score on $5,300. This is the kind of matchup where that can work. So that's where I'm taking this game. I think again, I'm not against Diggs and Hopkins. They'll be in the pool, but I'm going to try to overweight the field on Kirk and John Brown because I want exposure to this game. Chalk is chalk for a reason, and we're not going to shy away from the chalk, but I'm going to try to go overweight on the priced receivers in this one. I like that idea, Guda.
Boys, I got to tell you, I'm loving that stack in this game. I love the leverage I love leverage we're going to get on the field with that stack. Honestly, I just wrote it down because I know I'd forget about it. So I wrote that down. So I need everyone listening and watches, write that down. Check back, do what you need to do. Send a message, Siri, remind me on Sunday to remind me to play Kirk. And to borrow a phrase from Doug, I'm a little bit sad in this game because I want to play Andy Isabella in the slot so freaking bad. But what numbnuts keeps giving Fitzgerald targets when he should be a coach. Because Teron Johnson in the slot is an absolute turnstile. And Andy Isabella would roast his ass. Roast him.
He drops too many passes.
He does.
Isabella's a butterfinger. He's a butterfinger guy. I wouldn't let him on the field. I would put John Brown I put Kirk in the slot and line Fitzgerald out wide to take advantage of that matchup. Not that Kingsbury will do that. Could you imagine? But I don't.
Christian Kirk in the slot. Oh.
No. But it would be great for fantasy if the Cardinals actually lined Fitz up as a tight end because that's basically how they're playing him. They're playing him as like a tight end. If he was tight end eligible, oh my God,
he's moving like a tight end right now.
If Fitzgerald is $3,900, if he's $3,900 and tight end eligible, he's our cash game tight end every week.
He's still getting look at his targets. He's getting 7, 4, 8. He's getting the targets.
Yeah.
If he was a tight end, oh my God, that would be.
Yep.
Oh.
Do it, Coach Handsome. Do it.
If this game's an option on Showdown, Fitzgerald I think is an option in a Showdown. But beyond that, you can't do it. But I love where we are. I love like what you guys said. Kirk Brown and Kyler Murray all day. Kyler Murray is having a historical season. I saw it today. He's on track to be the first quarterback in history with 4,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards. First quarterback.
He's outdoing what Lamar Jackson last year. The touchdown rate's there, but other than that, he's better than Lamar Jackson. He has rushed for a rushing touchdown every game but one this year. He's a running back one that gives you quarterback numbers as well. Like he's crazy. Filthy, and the fact he's just now hitting $8,000 is insane. I mean, he was $6,100 in week 2. I remember we used him. We were like, "Ha, that's a gimme." That was such an easy catch that week.
Yeah.
$6,000 for Kyler Murray.
Yeah, what's he on FanDuel? Is he still $6,000 on FanDuel? No. Yeah, we don't know. Who cares? Moving along. We have the Futures Bowl down in my Justin Herbert.
Hey there.
And the Dolphins. Doug, this is interesting. West Coast team coming east, but it's a 4:00 start, so that's a little different. Maybe that helps the Chargers out a wee bit. But Doug, what are you seeing here?
Once again, DraftKings has given us a gift of a mid 5K quarterback for cash. Thanks, DraftKings, making it easy for us this week. The Charger pass defense not particularly great, and Joey Bosa's not playing this week. Tua has shown that he's got some moves and he can run. volume may not need to be there, but the Chargers can score a little bit. So, 25 passes. I mean, look, he did 21 points last week. And on 5,600, I'll take that all day long. I think there's upside for more. He looks real comfortable in the pocket. I get that he doesn't have Preston Williams. I get that he doesn't have Gaskin. I get that he doesn't have Breida. But you know who he does have? He has Jakeem Grant. Jakeem Grant has been he's like this engine out of the slot, and I think he's got the targets, and he could take one to the house from 60 yards on just a bubble screen, and I love what he can do. I think that's going to get forced to Devontae Parker. I think we're going to see just this high consolidated volume of targets going to Parker and Grant, and maybe this is the week that Sean's son, Mike Gesicki, finally does something. He came on strong at the end of last year. Is this the year that he does it? Last week after Williams got hurt, 4 targets, 42 yards. Maybe we rookie out there. He is a slot wide receiver, essentially, that plays tight end. I really like him in this game. Another name to keep an eye out if you want a complete absent. He's not in the player pool, so screw that. I was going to say Antonio Callaway, but he's not even in the player pool. Like what? Callaway is this amazing deep threat. What the hell, DraftKings? Why do you not have Antonio Callaway on this? Whatever, dude. Whatever. Mac Hollins got a target last week. Don't care. It's Grant. If no Callaway, it's Grant Parker, Gesicki. I'm not even worried about the running game. I do think that Keenan Allen for cash. I don't know if I can afford him this week. I know we talked about not having money to do whatever we wanted to this week, but I don't. And the volume is there for sure. But 71, I'm not sure I have it. It's a decent Miami pass defense, world's best. But I just think the Dolphins at home are kind of good against West Coast teams. Look what they did to the Rams. But every week the Dolphins are good. I mean, this defense the back pressure the quarterback. They do some things, and so I'm not in love with running Chargers. I don't think Herbert is cash viable this week. I just think he's far too expensive. I do like the passing game. Kalen Ballage revenge game. Do you have it? Do you have the balls to run a Kalen Ballage revenge game? Look, the dude got volume. He got volume. Listen, you're just upset that the Jets couldn't do anything with them. You're just jealous you didn't get to use Ballage as the Jet.
We got P. Ryan.
No, but seriously though, but yeah, he's not
$5,000 for Ballage. $5,000.
Wait, is that too much or too little?
Are you fucking me?
It's 20 touches. He's going to get 20 touches on a team that's not coached by Adam Gase. This is a dude who scored 7 touchdowns in college in one game, wearing what looked like a lightning bolt on his helmet for Arizona State. I know it's the Sun Devils, but come on. Dude looks good in Charger blue or yellow or whatever color they're going to run him out in this week. I'm not saying I love Kalen Ballage. I'm just saying player pool worthy perhaps.
If Ballage goes off, if Ballage actually is a player, Adam Gase should be blacklisted from the NFL immediately.
He had a good week last week. He played well last week. I just put points last week.
If Gase ruined, it was Ballage. My initial reaction was, but it's if Gase. Oh my God, Gase should be blacklisted from the NFL. Ballage is actually a player.
Listen, any player that's left Adam Gase has succeeded. Ballage has the path to touches, especially if Troy Maine Pope doesn't play. It's John Love. We know I've been collecting Joshua Kelly rookie cards. I talk about it every week. I love Joshua Kelly. But Ballage seems to be the guy who's getting favored. If he gets 60% of the running back snaps in a matchup that if it's remotely close, I mean, $5K? He's not cash game for me, but I mean, maybe player pool. Maybe I feel we spent too much time on Ballage. Use Tua in cash, guys. Tua is your cash game. We don't lose the point here. Use Tua as your cash game quarterback. All right, I've talked enough. I've insulted the Jets. I'm going to let Gouda talk now.
Tua had 7 carries last week, actually, against Arizona.
He's nimble.
No, but they're not being. But that tells me that they've unleashed him. Like they're not going to. Like they're not going to. Yeah. I mean, him having rushing attempts tells me that Flores is like, okay, you're good to go. Let's go.
It tells me there's a ceiling potential. It's not just a safe. He's not a game manager. They're letting him run this offense.
Oh, and by the way, Keenan Allen is my Captain Obvious Dirty Slot Play of the Week, by the way, just so you know. Michael.
Yeah. So to touch on your Keenan Allen point, he's got double-digit targets in every single game this year except for 2. And one of those games that he didn't have double-digit targets, he still had 8 targets. So, yeah, the guy's been a monster after being ridiculed this offseason when he said that he was one of the top receivers in the NFL. So, you know, he's got a point to prove here, and Herbert's been helping him a ton. The only other thing I'm going to add on this game, which I can't even believe I'm saying it, but I'm all in on Devontae Parker this week. He's way too cheap at 5,000. The Chargers just traded one of their corners. I think King. I forget what his name is. If he's matched up on Casey Hayward's just not kind of what he used to be. And, you know, and remember, Parker, it took Preston Williams last year getting hurt as well before Parker really went off. And, you know, we're seeing that now with Williams with the foot injury. I truly think it's Devontae Parker time, you know, and he's going to be a big part of my lineups this week. And again, at 5,000, if Miami can can look like they did last week, Parker's going to get that volume, and 5K is not too hard to get through to hit your value.
He's that underpriced upside one-off kind of a guy. Like, right, that's the guy you're just going to plug into any line if you got 5K left over for a flex. Devontae Parker, it makes so much sense.
Yep, yeah. I mean, him and Jerry Jeudy are like two of those guys. Yes. You know that depending where you got your money left.
Yes. Oh, I love it.
So, could this be the sneaky stack of for the late slate? Could this be overlooked? This could be a sneaky game stack, right? With all the game
could be. I have seen other sites promoting the Miami stack though, so I don't think, because a lot of times sites, the major sites, if you talk about something, it drives ownership. I do think it won't be as under owned as people think, but it'll be lower owned than the Rams, Seattle, and Buffalo, Arizona. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I actually think going back to that other game that I hate, the Denver stack, I think could be that under-owned, real quiet stack that could do something. If that game does hit that 50-point total, that Denver stack with Jeudy and Locke could be the sneaky stack that no one's talking about. But I like Miami. Under-owned or not, I think Miami's a good play.
Well, I mean, you can Tua. You run a Tua Parker Grant, run it back with. I can't even say his name.
No, you run it back with Keenan Allen. You run it back with Keenan Allen. Be smart there.
Yes.
Keenan Allen and Balaj? No, you don't do that.
I can't even say his name. Who are we kidding? Anyway, moving on to that.
It almost sounds like you're vomiting when you say the name Balaj. It sounds like a vomit.
Balaj. Balaj. 2020, ladies and gentlemen. That's all you need to know.
Is this an ugly stack, though? Look in front of you. Is this an ugly stack? This is not an ugly stack.
No, it's not.
That's playable. Nope. That's super playable.
That's why I was saying, like, could this be overlooked? Like, this could be a nice leverage stack on that late slate, right? Like, is Tua going to be popular because of his price? Probably. Is Allen going to be popular? Probably. Grant, most likely because of his price. Parker could go overlooked maybe on that. I mean, this late slate is loaded. It'll be interesting. This will be a great week to test the whole everybody plays the early games and fades the late game theory, right? Because they want to see their screenshots of their points. Well, you wouldn't think so.
Not this week. People don't want to watch the Masters, so they're gonna save their all their lineups for the late slate. Let me throw something out on. I think Devontae Parker is going to be one of the most under-owned players on this slate, because I think people are going to look at Grant for $2K cheaper, see what Parker's done, and go, I might as well just go for Grant. And I think Parker is going to go under-owned. He's a slate breaker. He's a GPP winning type of play.
For sure. At his price.
Good call that, Gouda.
Oh, and boys,
it works out.
I love these last two games. These last two games here. I'm making notes, man. Notes here is awesome. Moving along. 49ers and the New Orleans Saints. Michael, why don't you kick us off in this game here?
Yeah, isn't it such a shame of what a calendar year can do to a matchup. I mean, we had this matchup, I think, right around the same time last year. I think it was like right around week 10 or 11. And they had that back and forth, what was it, like 42-35 game? It was just possession after possession, was touchdown after touchdown.
Mostert went nuts in that game.
Yeah, and now, you're looking at a San Fran team that, you got Nick Mullins at quarterback. Who even knows who's playing at running back this week? Is it going to be McKinnon? Is it going to be Hasty? Debo's out again. Richie James coming off that big game, but now you got Bourne back in. Ayuk is active too. So, who's doing it on San Fran? The one place on San Fran I'm not afraid to go, which, yes, 2020, is Jordan Reed at only 3,500. We have seen in the past, San Fran does love their tight end. I mean, when you have a guy like Kittle, you got to use a guy like that. But Mullins hasn't been afraid to throw it to the tight end. When Reed was back in weeks 2 and 3, when Reed was the primary focus, he had 8 targets against the Jets. He went for 7 for 50 with 2 touchdowns. He had 6 targets against the Giants the following week. Only went 2 for 23, but still, if he's getting anywhere from 6 to 8 targets again, and by all accounts, San Fran should be passing in this game. New Orleans should be able to put up some points, especially after we saw a bit of their awakening last week. The volume could definitely be there for Reed. Other than that, on San Fran, I mean, some of these guys could be playable in the standpoint of, New Orleans putting up a lot of points and them needing to pass. I just don't know where. Marshawn Lattimore has looked so much better these the past month and a half. So, if he's matched up against Brandon Ayuk, that could take him out of the game. And do you really want to take a guess on Kendrick Bourne or Richie James? I don't. I'd rather find the volume elsewhere, or the value, I should say. And on the New Orleans side, I think it's pretty cut and dry here, like it is every week. You're using 1 or 2 shares of Drew Brees just because he could still have a 25-point game, potentially even reaching a 30-point game. That's good enough. But other than that, it's Kamara, it's Michael Thomas. I'm not exactly running to get Kamara in my lineups this week because of the price, and San Fran is still tough against running backs. But the guy's going to have volume. You got to have some exposure to him because we know Kamara is a 40-point outburst waiting to happen. And then you got Michael Thomas. I mean, at 7,400, this guy was damn near 10K every week at the end of last year, let alone being over 8,000 and 9,000. At 7,400, it seems like such an insane bargain. And again, it's a decent matchup. San Fran's secondary has been decimated. They haven't been as good against the pass this year. And his first game back, they didn't need him much last week. Still got 6 targets, went 5 for 51. It's probably actually a good thing that he, that his production wasn't too great last week. That we can maybe get him overlooked a little bit and a little bit cheaper than he probably should be. I mean, it's Michael Thomas. He should be priced around 8,000 just because of the name. We know what the volume is going to bring. So any type of discount on that, I think he's a strong play here, and that's kind of where you look in this one.
I'm not touching this game.
Yeah,
no. Just
all right.
It's just
okay, let's take advantage. All right, moving along. Let's go Seattle Rams. Let's go Seattle Rams. All right,
don't even think on it.
It's off Seattle Rams. Let's go.
I wasn't going to say anything anyway. Now you're going to make me spend 10 minutes telling you I wasn't going to say anything. I like this game. I like this game. Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson's doing Russell Wilson things. I don't even need to get into it. He's fine. It doesn't matter who he's playing. He's fine. Jared Goff's the guy that is going to get alleged at $6,500, and he should. The Rams have been throwing the ball a lot more lately. And Seattle is on pace to 1,000 more yards than the worst defense in the history of football, passing-wise. 1,000 more passing yards than any other team in the history of hell. That's disgusting. I'm very interested in this Rams passing game. I'm buffing cash because I think there's a flow, because I also think Jared Goff's a very good football player. But I think it's really hard up this matchup against Seattle. He looks like he's going to play. He was questionable earlier in the week, and now he looks like he practiced this week. And $6,900, he's ready to go. We've seen the ceiling. Last time he played, 20 targets. That's phenomenal. But his floor is 6. Terrible. Like Seattle, that's great. Super much in play for, that's not good English. He's very much in play for cash this week. I actually think I have him in my cash lineup over Cup right now, simply because there was the injury concern, and the targets are going to be there for him as well. I think there's plenty of opportunity for both receivers in this game. Seattle has given up 16 wide receiver one games, the top 24 performances. They've given up 16 of them in only 8 games. That's 2 a game. So there's more than enough opportunity. The next worst team has given up only 12. It's still pretty bad in 8 games, but there's a lot of opportunity. Josh Reynolds, we'll go back to Sean's dude. Josh Reynolds looks great. The volume is there. He's had what's the total here? 22 targets over the last 3 weeks that he's played. Had those ones. Heard today that his ADOT is 4 more yards than either Cup or Woods this over the last few weeks. So he's getting the deeper target, but he's also a red zone threat. $3,500 against this defense. Okay, total GPP option for me. I can't use him in cash, but he's very viable. Sean, I'm not going to steal your thunder, so I'm going to let you talk about what happens when Russell Wilson focuses on one wide receiver, because you brought it up. I think it was you who brought it up in Slack that said something about how Jalen Ramsey's going to shadow DK Metcalf. Was that you who brought that up in Slack? Sean has gone mute again. Well, I'll bring it up since Sean, you've gone mute. I don't know if you can hear me. We cannot hear you at all. Can you unmute yourself? It's like I'm in my class again. I tell my students, unmute yourself. You got it. Just like I tell my 4th graders, you did it. Good job. You unmuted yourself. What was that stat about? You were talking about DK Metcalf.
Yeah, so DK Metcalf was shadowed, I believe it was 2 weeks ago against, hold on, let me bring it up.
It was right there. Week 7 against Aaron.
It was last explosion game. So 3 against Arizona.
Yep.
So I mean, a lot. Jalen Ramsey will be on Metcalf. Look, Metcalf. Metcalf. I think is matchup proof. I think I don't want to take anything. I don't want to really jump in too much and see anywhere from Michael here, but I mean, Tyler Lockett is what it is. He's a boomer bust. Like his floor is. He's is 9 points, and the ceiling is 56. Right? Like that's just a crazy range of outcomes there, right? So cash, no. GPP, yes. Right?
I'll have a lot more Lockett.
And Cooper Kupp is another one. Cooper Kupp is definitely. I'm writing him up this week. Cooper Kupp is gonna. This is just like Doug said. Two top wide receiver 1 games a year. A game, like it's just nice. And Josh Reynolds is now tied for red zone target leads for the Rams. Now, the last night I brought him up, he was I think 2nd. So Josh Reynolds is a fantastic GPP play as well. Michael,
super cheap.
What's Michael? What do you got, Michael? You gonna play the running game? What are we gonna do here?
You gonna leverage the field on this one, Michael?
It's like you're reading my mind. Yes, indeed, I am actually. Another week and another reason to be underweight the field on Seattle. Not that I think this is a bad game to stack, because I don't. It should be relatively high scoring, but let's not forget this year, the Rams have taken much more of a sort of a run first approach and don't let Goff kill us. So they definitely want to keep Russell Wilson, off the field, as is every defense. The Rams have one of the best pass rushes in the NFL, and Seattle's defense offensive line isn't that great. They allow a ton of pressure. Wilson gets sacked, quite a bit, and let's not forget that Russell Wilson does tend to turn the ball over. Again, not that it's impacting his fantasy outputs, but you've got there's only been, only 3 of his games this year. Wilson hasn't thrown an interception. So at 6 games, he's thrown a pick. That's not really great for a guy playing on an MVP level. So I do love the Rams defense in this one at a cheap $2,200 price tag. We don't need much for them to give us a couple of points. But my point more on the offense being, I'm really looking at Darrell Henderson as a great play this week. He's going to be a very low-owned GPP play where everybody's flocking to the offense. And yes, Seattle's defense is only giving up 3.7 yards per rush. But let me pose it to you in a different way. What running backs has Seattle actually faced this year? They went up against Buffalo last week. Nobody to write home about. They went up against the decimated San Fran team. They went up against the Cardinals. The Cardinals ran for 159, but that was more Kyler Murray than anything else. They gave up 201 yards to the Vikings. Got Dalvin Cook there. Miami, nobody to write home about. They held Dallas to only 61 yards rushing, but, we've seen the struggles with the Cowboys' offensive line and everything, but they held Zeke in check with that. And then the Patriots and the Falcons. So this is, to me, this is one of those, well, is it the chicken or is it the egg? And I'm going to go with the Rams' offensive line is playing a lot better. They've been run blocking really well. And I'm just going to go with the fact that Seattle has not played against any good running backs, and the way that they've been, chucking it, teams have just started to throw the ball. So I think Henderson is primed for, potentially for a big game here. He's the clear running back, and the guy's going to be under 5% owned. So it's a perfect way to have exposure on a high-scoring game. And listen, if it does get into a shootout, Henderson's catching some passes. So, Henderson's got some routes to success here. And, it's a strong leverage play.
I'll board bet you on.
What are we going to board bet?
I don't know. I just think that Henderson's going to be, I don't know. Give me a point total for Henderson, and I'll take the under. Pick a number. 4 points. No, I think.
No.
How many points do you like? Where's like? I don't see it with Henderson. I just think the Rams are just going to throw.
All right. Well, here. So Henderson's 5,900. So we'll just call it 6,000. We'll do 3x. We'll do 18 points.
Dude, that's not even fair for me to take. Let's do 2.5. I'll do 15 points. I'll
all right.
He's going to go under 15. I can't even. I wouldn't feel comfortable taking 18 points. That's like super unfair. Now I get in a GPP. We want the upside. We want probably 20, 22, 24, but I don't think he gets to 15. I'm not even sure he gets to 12. I don't see it at all. Now, and fall in the end zone twice, and I'll look stupid. They'll get down to the one. My guy, my cash game receiver, whichever one ends up being Cupper, Woods will take it down to the 1 3 times, and Henderson will get 3 1-yard rushing TDs. And you're going to come back on here in victory lap on next week, and you'll have it coming. I'll have it coming. And remember, folks, anyone who's when you're listening to this, remember I have lost every board bet this year. So go Darrell Henderson, I guess, but I don't see it. 15 points, I don't see it. But listen, you've been right way more than you've been wrong this year. So I can't. I'm so on this passing game. I know we like to fade a lot of that chalky chalk, but I just can't on this one. Break the tie, Sean. What do you think? He's muted again.
What happened?
Can you hear him?
Nope. I see the lips moving though.
Sorry. Yeah. Doug, you're not going to like my response to this one.
I don't care. You're never on my side.
There's one decent defense on the field in this game, and it's definitely not Seattle's. I think Aaron Donald actually can get in the backfield and mess up Russell Wilson a little bit here. I can see the Rams.
I agree with that.
I think the Rams now. Are the Rams going to pass? Oh, hell yeah, they're going to pass. But they're going to pass, and I think the Rams get out to a lead here. And guess what's going to happen there? Darrell Henderson going to get fed.
Lots of Malcolm Brown. Just kidding. No Malcolm Brown.
Watch, Malcolm. Yeah, we're all going
Cam Akers.
Cam Akers needs to be released. He needs to be unleashed. That kid needs to play. Anyways. But yeah.
Listen, the Rams are my cash game defense. By the way, I wrote the Rams up like hard. Like I like my cheap defenses. And they're the defense. But like I think
Aaron Donald is going to be tormenting Russ all day long.
I hope you're right.
Line actually is not like Russ is making that offensive line look a lot better than they are. And I think Donald's definitely the one. Donald's one of those guys that it doesn't matter who he's up against. but you put him up against like in a bit of a mismatch, and I think he's gonna be in the backfield all day long. So I like that bet for the Big Utah. In fact, I've made a note, and I'm going to have a Henderson Rams double stack. Especially Lakeside.
I should now because I talked it down. Whenever I talk it down, that's the opposite's going to happen. I'm the curse of all curses.
Lock and load.
Let's
lock and load now.
Let's
right?
lock and load Henderson. All in on Henderson. Just need Henderson. Just one player in your lineup. Right. Henderson's going to cash for you by himself.
I didn't go.
Right, let's bring this home. Let's bring this home with another crappy game.
And we finish up with the Bengals and the Steelers, and I believe might have some weather issues here. But Dougie, what are you seeing here?
It's apparently Tyler Boyd's birthday on Sunday. It's my wife's birthday on Sunday too, so I guess they share a birthday. Who will have a bigger game that day? I don't know. We'll find out. But I know Sean is excited because it's Tyler Boyd Day. We saw what Naeem did on his birthday. Are we really going to play? Probably not. We'll play him because Tyler Boyd gets a lot of targets, and Joe Burrow's going to have to throw. It's a lot of volume, and sure, I don't mind Tyler Boyd, and at $6,400, it's a real good price. And Gio's viable at $5,400. Joe Mixon doesn't play. Gio Bernard's a top 15, top 12 type of running back every single week. It's not a great matchup, but it's Pittsburgh's got a good defense, a great defense actually. But you can put up some points on them. Cincinnati's defense is great. I flip a coin on which Pittsburgh receiver is going to do something. I'm going to keep crapping all over Chase Claypool every single week. Just because people want to use him in cash, and he's not a cash game wide receiver. Tons of upside. Use him in a GPP, fine, but cash game don't use. Deontay Johnson, when he plays, he still gets the targets. So I'm going to keep using Deontay Johnson, or at least I'll say if you're going to use any of them for cash, it's going to be Deontay, but he's not in my pool this week. Juju does Juju things. He's fine, but I'm not gonna go overboard on him at 6K. I do think it's a great bounce back week for James Conner. If you want to leverage the field, you want to take a guy that no one's having. I can't do it in cash this week, but you want to take a guy that everyone's pissed off at. That'd be 4 James Conner from last week, and that matchup that he was supposed to do great in. Cincinnati's run defense ain't great either, and if Pittsburgh gets a lead in this game, they're going to pound it with Conner. I have no problem with using James Conner as a leverage play. You want to get super leveragey, you want to go with what Sean just recommended for the last game, and I love doing it. You take the Pittsburgh defense, which $4,400 I don't like doing, but if we're doing it for a GPP stack just to get some leverage, by the way, had y'all like 7 points for $4,900 last week. Don't pay up for defense in cash. But if you're using as part of a GPP stack, you can accept the Steelers and Conner. But even if you just go straight Conner, no one's going to be on him. If he's 3%, I'll be shocked. No one's going to play him after last week. And this is the right matchup for him. You play the data, you play the matchup, things are going to be fine. He's, Cincinnati's not good against the run. And Conner, we've seen, gets the work. When Pittsburgh just had to throw last week, and everything was off with Pittsburgh, but that he gives up a rush yard. They're not against the run. 161. A couple of half decent games, but for the most part, they get run on. Great, use James Conner. That's a one-off leverage play that you might want to use in a GPP. If we talked about Devontae Parker being a one-off type of a guy. We talked about Josh Reynolds being a one-off type of guy. Tyler Lockett. If you want to do with the running back, you do it with James Conner. Same way that Dalvin Cook a couple weeks back was that. Coming back from his injury, no one was using them against the Packers, and he had those 4 touchdowns. I'm not saying Conner will have 4 touchdowns, but that's the type of play this is. No one's on him. Great, use him. That's what we do in GPPs. Otherwise, though, this game doesn't entice me all that much. And I know Gouda likes that play because I saw him shaking his head. He loves those leverage plays.
I do.
What do you got, Mike?
Pretty much the same thing. I don't love the passing game on either side here. Tyler Boyd's going to be viable just because he's going to be the target hog. And Pittsburgh's pass D has not been the best this year. The secondary has been getting beat a bit. So there's definitely routes to success here for Boyd. And if Pittsburgh's offense performs like they should, we'll probably see Burrow throw it 40 times again, and that'll lead to some good stuff for Boyd, or at least it should. Other than that, James Conner, definitely have exposure, use him. And also too, what'll help Connor's potential this week. Jalen Samuels is still on the COVID list. There hasn't been any talk yet if he's going to be on or off. Anthony McFarland has missed the past 2 practices, and he's highly questionable to play. So it's looking like potentially at running back, they only might have Connor Snell and their fullback Watt active. And at that point, I mean, that's just going to add to Connor's even more. He usually cedes a couple of snaps on passing downs to Samuels and McFarland. So if Connor's getting a couple extra snaps on passing downs, because we know Benny Snell isn't catching the ball, that just potentially gives him even more upside there. There's definitely lots to like for Connor. And I mean, the Steelers D is still a bit priced up there, but I think it's at least more reasonable this week because realistically, with how bad that Bengals offensive line is, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's highly unlikely, but if Sunday night we look at the box score and the Steelers have 10 total sacks against Burrow, I wouldn't be shocked. It wouldn't shock me at all. I mean, again, it's highly unlikely, but I think it's a week that you could feel more comfortable paying up for Pittsburgh's defense because they're going to get in that backfield.
So Pittsburgh's defense in slot coverage this season has given up 8 touchdowns. 8.
There you go.
Tyler Boyd is going to get it on his birthday. Yes, he is, and I'm going to blow out a candle for him. All right.
Oh, there's a comment. I'm just going to let it go. Just let it go, Doug. Just let it go. Just let it go.
Probably for the best.
It's definitely for the best.
We'll play Tyler Boyd, boys. That's all I'm going to say.
We like Tyler Boyd.
I'm a little bit like Tyler Boyd. I mean, I'm a Browns fan. I might buy a Boyd jersey. Maybe I'll win one in one of the breaks. That's what we'll do. We'll win a Boyd jersey.
Right. There you go.
Let's wrap it up with our cash cores, and we will get out of here.
Cash core for me this week is Devontae Adams for sure. We've talked about him ad nauseum, and I'm pairing him with Mike Davis to get my $6,500 player on each end. It's the cash core should be a singular player that I'm locked in on, but it's either going to be Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods, one of the 2 Rams receivers, depending upon which way I can afford. I prefer Kupp if I had $6,900, but if I don't, I'm going to use Robert Woods. Either way, one of the 2 Rams receivers will be there. That's I've only got a 3-player core currently, just because it's still a little early in the week for me. I don't really lock in on that until Saturday nights anymore. With all the news, but that's it. It's Adams and Davis for sure, and then a Rams wide receiver. And I'm probably going to use Tua, but depending upon how things break, I may go up to Kyler Murray. We'll have to see. But right now, it's looking like Tua, so it's not a firm core yet.
Yeah, I could make a comment there too, but we'll let that one slide as well. Michael,
fair.
Yeah, I've got a lot of question marks that I still need to figure out with cash, but I do know. I'll give you 3 slots that I know aren't going to be changing. That's Miles Sanders, Devontae Parker, and it's a little bit of a cheating, but I know I'm not changing. I'm locked in on it. The Rams defense.
Love it. Love all of them. I got Sanders and the Rams defense in my cash game lineup, by the way, too. They're just not core players yet. But I love it. I love it, Gouda. That's such a good core.
As usual, you need to check in with us on Slack chat, the live stream on Sunday morning with all the updated news coming out at 11 o'clock with late scratches and lineup changes, everything else like that. Doug and Michael will be taking you through that. I'm on the Slack 24/7. Help out. We will get you situated this weekend, and it's all for $3.99 a week, and you get all of us. You get all the articles. You get the best Slack chat in the business. Possibly the greatest podcast on earth. Which is
for sure. Shortest, that's for sure. Shortest podcast ever.
Yeah, no. I mean, wait till we get to the NHL.
Don't forget the amazing team of writers that we have too. We have it's not just the 3 of us. Like we're just the 3 guys who go on camera. Like we got a team. We got a big old team of writers that are there to help.
Soccer Writer of the Year, the Joker, Mr. Jeffrey Kaminsky. I mean, it's endless. I mean, you have Brian Croce. I mean, it's the best of the best. $3.99 a week. You get it all. Join up. Get involved now. It's been nothing but green screens the last few weeks. He is Doug the Founder Shane. He is Michael Gutadero. I am Sean Goodwin, and we are